All right. It's 11 o'clock dot. And as promised, let's get started. We have about 50 people, 49 people who are going to be part of this webinar. But I think a lot of them are still getting to work. It's rained in Bangalore today. And perhaps some of them are still settling and joining the webinar soon. But I'm going to get started. I already see a lot of familiar names, people who I've either trained directly or people who attended our workshops at some point or whose certificates I might have signed. And I also see a couple of new names. So here's what I'm going to do, especially for the benefit of those who've not attended a Bodhi workshop. I'm going to very quickly just take a minute or two to run through what we do. So, by the way, I must remind you, those of you who've attended our workshop some time ago, don't be surprised with the new look and feel. We've recently gone through a rebranding exercise, and that's the new Bodhi logo, which you see on the front screen. So this entire webinar, it's a 2-hour webinar, and we start now, we finish at 1 o'clock. And it's really a compilation of some brilliant insights. And I must confess, not all of them my own or Bodhi's own. What we've learned from the industry. It's also what we've learned from people who we worked with. We've also studied some of the most successful trainers in the industry and seen what is it that they are doing, which is making them successful. And it's really those secrets which we're going to share through this webinar. And the manner in which we intend to do that is through a series of FAQs. So I'm going to answer about 40 questions in the period of 2 hours. And if some questions are repeated, I'm going to be as telegraphic as possible. But if it calls for a longer explanation, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so for those of you who haven't been part of a Bodhi workshop earlier, so we're called Bodhi Training Solutions, and this is our 9th year in the business. We're primarily in the business of organizational development, and the manner in which we do that is by providing training. We over the years we've worked with well over 1,000 clients. In fact, if you go to our website, you'll find a dynamically updated list of clients who we are working with, and we also have helped many companies set up internal training teams. So we also have a very structured approach to training, and those of you who attended our workshops would have seen that. And of course, all our workshops are very hands-on and experiential. So very rarely do we run a workshop which is just lecture-based. So these are some clients who we worked with. I hope there are names there which you recognize. So on one end of the spectrum, we've done we've done some very basic training for water parks like Wonderla, where people were just giving out tickets. And on the other hand, we also chosen vendors for Microsoft and have trained rocket scientists in ISRO. I also teach at IIM Bangalore. I'm the guest faculty there for some of their modules. We handle the training calendar for many other companies. I hope you see some names there which you recognize. These are some more clients who we worked with. That's just to give you a snapshot. And we are also an ISO company. We've recently become, or actually not so recently, about 6 months ago, we've become an ISO 9001 2015 company. Okay, so everything that we follow here are based on ISO standards. And these are the broad buckets. I mentioned that we do non-technical training, and under the realm of non-technical training, this is really what we focus on. All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. I mean, let's look at why we're even doing this webinar. One of the reasons that we're doing this webinar is we are trying to see, Bodhi is constantly trying to see how we can help our participants, and we've done a lot of things over the years to to make things better for our participants, to give them back as much as possible. And in fact, when the Train the Trainer was first launched in 2012, we used to only run it in some of the elite 5-star hotels. But then we realized that what that was doing is actually making the program less affordable for the participant. And we've changed everything from the venue to even the nature of the program and handouts. And the only thing that has gotten enriched is the quality of the content and delivery. But otherwise, we've been trying to make it as affordable and accessible to everybody as possible, including reaching out to new cities, doing programs like the recent one which we did in Pune and so on. So we've actually captured, instead of us answering any sorts of questions, we've captured a list of questions which are the questions that you posted on our website, and we're going to answer them. Apart from that, there are some questions which we hear repeatedly, which I will also answer. And importantly, what I'd like you to do is, through the course of this webinar, I'd like you to answer this question, which is, how would you like Bodhi to help you? What is it? What more would you like us to do in order to help you launch yourself as a trainer? And whatever ideas you have or thoughts you have about it, you can please put it up on the chat screen. Okay. So just some housekeeping measures. You can keep yourself muted throughout. If you want to ask a question, you can please put it on the chat screen. I'll be watching it very closely. But otherwise, you'll be listening to me through your audio system. Okay? Questions only on the chat screen, and otherwise, you'll keep yourself muted. Okay. So let me start. Yes, I see some messages already on the chat. Okay, Nina, if you're unable to see the slides, and we have a couple of people from the Bodhi office who are here, and I think they're able to see the slides, so I think you should just check your system. Also, if you're unable to hear me, I think you should do the same. Okay, if you're really having a problem, consider disconnecting and reconnecting. It might help. It helped some people in the past. Okay, so let me plunge in, since it's a pretty short webinar. It's just 2 hours. I'm going to get into the questions directly. Okay, so here's what somebody was asking. What are the certifications and courses that can be pursued for getting specialization in a particular field, say soft skills, behavioral analysis, and so on? Also, which are some renowned institutions, and where can I get the above? Okay, so let me just tell you what you should do before even answering this question. The first thing that I'd like for you to do is keep in mind that it's not, okay, first of all, the person who asked this question, I appreciate the fact that you're not thinking of doing another TTT, because I keep telling people, if you've attended Bodhi's Train the Trainer certification, that's pretty much all you need in terms of a trainer certification, in terms of understanding how to train. But if you want to do something more, yes, it does make sense for you to invest on some what to train areas. And these sorts of areas, as are implied in your question, which is soft skills, behavioral analysis, these are quite general. Okay, I cannot sit here and, being from Bodhi, recommend the names of other other companies where you can do this, and also for good reason, because the company would depend upon what exactly you want to do. But just to bounce off some names, for example, if you have a serious interest in something like lateral thinking, now there is one company which is really doing work on that, which is Edward De Bono, and the book Six Thinking Hats. There's a certification on Six Thinking Hats, and that would certainly add value to your specialization. If you're planning to do something on along the lines of personal effectiveness, so there are so many certifications which are related to that field. A popular one revolving around personal effectiveness could be something like the 7 Habits. Also, Robin Sharma has a program. So the point that I want to make is, it would do you good to take up a certification which is probably from the people who are the best in their field. So if you want to do mind mapping, it makes sense for you to do a Tony Buzan certification, and not just get a mind mapping certification from somebody who's learned it from Tony Buzan. Okay, so that's the first suggestion that I'd like to make. Also, if you're looking at, since you mentioned behavioral analysis, now what is behavioral analysis? It's a vast field. You can analyze behavior through the use of psychometrics, so you can get a psychometric related certification related to MBTI, DISC, that's Thomas profiling, FIROB, Strength Finder. I mean, there are so many of them. What else is behavioral analysis? If it's about analyzing somebody's behavior through an interview, then you can do a STAR certification, which is a very popular interviewing method. If it's about analyzing somebody's behavior through a series of conversations, I mean, you can actually consider doing a master's in in psychology or counseling. Interestingly, considering many of you here might not be from a psychology background, there are a lot of programs out there where you can learn psychology without having a background in psychology. Okay, there's a master's program from the University of Pondicherry to counseling programs in Bangalore, and different organizations run. I don't want to name all of them, but there's a college called Montfort which runs a 6 month counseling program and so on. So this is really what I suggest. My main suggestion here is that, look, soft skills by itself is too vast to call it as a specialization. Okay, behavioral analysis is vast enough. It depends on what exactly you want to do, what kind of certification you want. So it would do you good to narrow that down and then get down to actually finding out who's the best player in the market in that space, and then doing the certification. Kushi, has the meeting started? Yes, it started, Kushi. I hope you can hear me. Rakesh, I would like to training from a good sales training company. Can you recommend me one? Well, Rakesh, there are a lot of sales training companies out there which you will find. One of the popular ones, which is known for sales training, is a company called Mercury Goldman. And apart from that, if you really want to do sales, there's a company called Cook Baldwin which only does Yellow Pages related sales. So there are specialized companies which are doing sales in a particular area. Okay, so I think you should also consider narrowing the focus of what kind of sales, and look at who's doing that in the industry. Okay, so let me move on to the next question. How to approach companies? Who are the people we should contact directly to get opportunities as a freelancer? Okay, so I mean, this might be encouraging for a lot of you to know. Though Bodhi has worked with 1,000+ clients, well, we have a couple of big competitors. One big competitor, I must admit, are you know the elite B schools like IIM Bangalore, where they do compete with us in the sense that somebody who wants to invest in a Bodhi workshop immediately starts thinking, why not go to IIM and get an IIM certificate by attending perhaps a simpler program, and perhaps not the exact program I want, but I'll get an IIM certificate. So they're a competitor. But the other big competition that we have is the freelancer. We have freelancers who can offer some programs at a much, much lower cost than Bodhi can possibly offer. And they are a big competition in the industry. Now, I'm telling you this for a reason. I'm telling you this because I hope you see this as encouragement that, if you are a freelancer somewhere, then there is a market for you. Who should you contact? Well, depends on the size of the company. If it's a very large company, you would be talking to somebody who's an L&D manager or a training manager. Sometimes you might even be talking in a larger company just to a training coordinator or an L&D executive. Okay, L&D is learning and development. In a smaller company, you might have one person who is anchoring the training. Sometimes that person might even be the only person in that function. Okay, somebody like a training manager who was not necessarily managing people, but managing a pool of trainers, of freelancers, training companies, and so on. So that's another possibility that you would contact. In a much smaller company, we have some clients where there are only 50 people in the company. The general manager or the managing director doubles up as HR manager, as finance head, as what am I saying? Doubles up, double, triples, quadruples up as a training manager, and so on. So you might directly be talking to the owner of the company. So who do you talk to depends upon what kind of client, and yeah, they are the people who you should reach out to eventually. Okay, but having said that, lot of times we might not be able to reach out to those people directly, so you would want to reach out to somebody in the company who you know, and so on. I'll talk more about that as we go along. Okay, what do we have here? Deepak says, what do you recommend if I'm looking to work with children between 7 to 15 year age group? Okay, and Amelia says, hello all, I'm late due to some technical issues. Okay, fine. So I'm glad you're finally here, Amelia. Deepak, So if you're looking at working with children between the ages of 7 to 15, first of all, it's brilliant that you're thinking of doing that. Catching them young is a great idea, even as a strategy, because they're more impressionable. What you say tends to stick. Children are more malleable, and you're likely to make more long time change because of that. So that's a good time to catch them. I would suggest that at this point, a lot of the international schools have opportunities. So I would say you can look for opportunities from the international schools. Okay, that's one thing that you can certainly look at. And also, I mean, to put it bluntly, a lot of these schools also have money to spend. I mean, some of the international schools that I don't want to name them, but the students pay something like 12 to 18 lakhs a year. That's the equivalent of the training budget that some of the smaller corporates have for the entire year. So there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of opportunity there. The other thing that you could do is, there are bodies which are conducting out, like recently, 2 weeks ago, I went for a public speaking program for children. So there are a lot of things that people in India probably are not exposed to adequately if you just went to a regular school. So my suggestion, Deepak, is to pick something like that and launch it as a program for children. And I think parents, your children from multiple schools would be able to access it, and you can run it, and it's always a very enriching experience, both for the children and for you. Okay. Okay, Kamna, do we give a call? Ask them we would like to talk to the L&D manager. Okay, I'm going to talk about that a little later. Okay, let me move on to the next question. Trainer profile. Okay, so I'm going to just make a note of it. This question just says trainer profile, but I would imagine that they want to make a trainer profile. So we will upload a sample trainer profile here by the end of this webinar. But just to, for those of you who are new to this, a trainer profile, first of all, is not a CV. The idea is not to, what should I say, mention on the trainer profile on which day you joined HCL, which day you left, how many years you worked there, and so on. The idea of a trainer profile is to give a client the highlights of yourself, both as a trainer and as an individual, which makes them say that you are the person, or you are the kind of person who they'd like to be trained by. So what can you say in it? You can talk about your highlights, your claims to fame in life. That's one thing. What is it that entitles you to be a trainer? Secondly, if you just go outside and tell somebody you're a trainer, they're going to ask you, what trainer? What's your area of specialization? And when they ask you that, obviously you have to have a strong area of specialization. So highlighting what it is that, and the question that somebody asked earlier, what certification should I do? So if you have a strong certification, you should mention that. Track record is important. It should come across, it should come out in your trainer profile. So rather than making promises in a trainer profile, talk about track record, talk about what you've done. The other thing is, you should definitely mention the clients you worked with. Many of our trainers' profiles get picked simply because of the kind of clientele they have. So that's something that you can certainly look forward to doing in a trainer profile. We will upload a sample trainer profile here by the end of this call so that you can use that as a reference. Perhaps we'll upload a Word document. Okay, next question. Okay, this question reads. Okay, let me just read this. I'm a process and product trainer with 5+ years of experience, trying to get into MNC as a full-time trainer, but getting rejected due to some or the other reason. Okay. I'm also trying to get into freelance, but not able to find any such opportunity. When I'm going for interviews, interviewers are not asking any certificate. Instead, they're expecting high level of training. Okay. I'm really confused. What do I need to do to improve myself and get into something better in my career? Please help. Okay. All right. So this is, first of all, let me tell you that this is a sort of classic dilemma that somebody who's just entered any field would face. Okay. And it's typical for us, uh, being in a particular field, to think that, we are stuck in this situation, and, what do we do? I want to share couple of things which will help you. First is I really like what you've written in the end. I really like that you've said what do I need to do to improve myself? I've noticed a lot of times people think that they're not getting a training job, or you're not getting an opening as a trainer. But when I speak to them and when I interview them and when I ask them a few questions, I realize it's not about training. Because of some qualities that you have, it's likely that you might have to improve overall. Okay, I was sharing this with one of our or couple of our recent groups who said, I mean, this gentleman was from the Middle East and very well spoken, and he finished our certification. Okay, and in that batch there was also this boy whose English was very sort of broken. He could speak English, but with a lot of difficulty and so on. But in the end, they got certified. But this gentleman from the Middle East asked me, how can you certify me? What he meant was, I'm so well spoken and polished, and how can you also certify this guy who can barely speak well? Then what's the meaning of your certification? And the meaning of a certification is this: the meaning of the certification is there are certain things that we've identified as being necessary to become successful in the field of training. Okay, and these are things which are trainable, which you can be trained on in a 4-day period, which is all we have for the train the trainer certification. So the meaning of the certification is that you get trained on it and you get evaluated for that. If your English language is really poor, will you struggle later as a trainer? There's a chance. Okay, but this is not an English language certification, and it would help you to improve your English in order to get a job. Likewise, if on the other hand, if you happen to be a really confident person, I mean, there are people who are so confident and well spoken, they might get a trainer job without going through any certification. Okay, so my first suggestion is to look beyond just this and see other things for you to improve overall, for you to get a job, period, not necessarily a training related role. The other thing which I would like to suggest is I'm glad that you're going for interviews and nobody's asking you about the certificate, because this is a good sign. This to me, people generally tend to ask you for your certificate, ask you to show them the certificate if they really start doubting your capabilities. But I think where you could make a difference here is as a freelancer to have a very, very strong demo module for you. And I think we do this constantly when we shortlist trainers, and all our clients do this when they shortlist or want to select our trainers. The demo is an important part of the puzzle. So I would suggest have a demo session, deliver it to a few groups, get feedback, rework it, polish it, see what you can do to make it so strong that when somebody sees that piece, they have no doubts that you're a good trainer. And I'm suggesting not just the demo session, the rest of your work should be representative of what you're trying to showcase in the demo session. That's something that will help you. And I mean, I would say keep going for interviews, because the more interviews you attend, the better you get at it. And I see a lot of people just landing good jobs because of that. Okay, how to establish yourself as a facilitator from being a leadership trainer and conducting sessions for students, groups to corporate clients. Okay, Ankita, first of all, I want to make a distinction here between facilitator and trainer. If by facilitator you mean another synonym for trainer, then I would say that you should do something to establish your own leadership credentials, and especially in areas like leadership, it is not enough to just have a certification. It is important for you to have demonstrated leadership. Okay, and one of the questions that people might well ask you, sometimes directly, sometimes only in their heads, is what kind of a leader are you, and where have you demonstrated leadership competence? If you haven't, then I think it's something for you to ask yourself and see how can you demonstrate that and how can you showcase that well. If you're talking about facilitator from the point of view of being a facilitator rather than a trainer, then the best work program available in the world right now is, or the only program available with respect to facilitator certification is is part of this body called as IAF, International Association of Facilitators. You can go to their website, iafworld.com, and there is a certification called as CPF, Certified Professional Facilitator. I think it's something that you can find there. You can get all the details there. You can get in touch with them closer to an upcoming conference, and they will tell you how to go about the certification. Okay. Deepak, any additional certification or training I should consider for myself? So, Deepak, once again, it depends really on what you want to do. So, let me just give you the range of things. With children, there are things related to whole brain learning. There are things related to multiple intelligence. There are things related to accelerated learning. I mean, all these have certifications of their own, which are available. If you search for them on the internet, you won't miss them. In fact, there are also some far more simple things. In fact, recently I was just looking at some magazine which is for teachers and educational institutions, and I don't know if you're aware of something called a Zentangle. And the Zentangle is a way to just sort of doodle and doodle and doodle and draw something. And now people are using this as a way to release stress, as a way to get children to learn certain things, to become more mindful, to become more aware, and so on. And there's a certification for that. And as an idea, it's very recent. It just came out in like 10 years ago. And now there's a certification to make yourself a Zentangle certified trainer or teacher. And so the options are endless. Deepak, you can also consider doing something completely on your own. If you feel you've discovered something which can help children, I think you should call it the Deepak method, and you can offer your own programs in it. Okay, so Amelia, you have another question. So, question by Amelia and Kamana, I'm going to answer in a bit. Amelia says, I want to understand how we sell our credibility, our product in market for young grads and corporates. Okay, I'm going to tell you a bit about that as we move along. Next question that I have here. Can I work with Bodhi as a part-timer for some requirement you might have in Chennai? Okay, it's a very, very specific question. The answer is possibly. Okay, but are we the best place for you to reach out and work with us? Here's what I'd like to say. Bodhi has a pool of about 60 to 70 trainers spread across the country. Okay, and we easily have a couple of hundreds of trainers who have a lot of training experience and who have a lot of corporate experience who we are unable to give opportunities to. So, in that sense, we might be a bad place to approach to seek opportunities for yourself. But having said this, this is not a blanket statement for you to discourage you from approaching training companies in general. No. In fact, I think there are a lot of training companies out there. I mean, there was a time when even at Bodhi, we would really want to find some trainer who could help us. But I think I must say now the stars have changed. So there are training companies out there which are constantly looking for trainers. And I think one of the exercise you might well want to do, and also Amulya, this is also an answer to you. You might want to reach out to those training companies which are training students, which are training corporates, which are training NGOs, and so on, and partner with them and be ready. They are going to tell you to come and do a demo for them, apart from a telephonic conversation or an interview. They're going to ask you to do a demo. And once you do that demo, if it goes well, they're likely to work with you. Okay. Have we given any opportunities to people in the past? Well, of course we have. It depends upon a lot of things. One is it depends upon location. Okay, there are some cities we just don't have trainers. So it's possible that if we have a really good trainer there who's been certified by us and who's done a lot of workshops, we've been able to give them opportunities. And the other thing is we've had some trainers who are extremely good in their field. Somebody who's written a book on a particular subject and is a specialist in it. We've been able to give opportunities to such people because they're just like, I remember one of our trainers, she's written a book called I think it's called It Doesn't Hurt to Be Nice. And so niceness is a big thing, and she's written an entire book about how somebody can be nice. Now, if somebody requests for a program on niceness, definitely we will reach out to somebody, someone from our pool like that. So that's the other thing which I'd like to say. So overall, reach out to as many training companies as possible, and that will certainly increase your hit rate. Gauri Shankar, how to build a trainer profile when I have nothing to mention in experience? Well, here's what I'd like to say, Gauri Shankar. You don't not necessarily always have to tell the truth, but you don't have to lie either. And I've noticed Americans who are able to do this really well. So even somebody, let me just give you an example. I met this guy once at a restaurant, and I was talking to him, and I asked him, "So what is it that you're doing?" He said, "I'm doing this project where I'm trying to understand how, as you travel through the road from one place to another, cultures change, expectations of people change, and the way you interact with people would be different, and so on." And I mean, when he said all this to me, I thought he was some professor from some big university in the world, and he was a foreigner, so. So then I asked him, "So when did you start doing it? How are you doing it?" And then I realized that this guy's a truck driver from Belgium. And this truck driver is what he's been doing is when he's been driving the truck across different places, he's been making note of what he's been observing. And that's how he's using this, and he's making sense out of it. So now somebody in India would have just said, "I'm a truck driver." But the way he put it across made so much of impact. So I would suggest you look at, I'm sure you've done enough till now for you to showcase. Okay. And the example I often give people is, if you went to a very good college, but you did civil engineering there, which is not the most difficult branch of engineering to get in. You might just want to mention, if you went to an IIT, you might want to mention that you're an engineer from IIT. But if you went to a very lousy engineering college, but you did computer science, or one of the branches which is more difficult to get in, you might want to say, "I'm a computer science engineer," and maybe not mention the name of the college, but just mention the university. So it's about picking out the right things to showcase. So Gauri Shankar, if you've not worked with enough corporates or any corporates at all, I think you should knock that section completely out of your profile rather than put a section called corporate experience or exposure and mention nothing under it. Okay, so let me move on to the next question. I'm giving training to graduates on GDs, that's group discussions, and PIs, that's personal interview skills, and and now planning to give training on various soft skills in corporates. Need tips for this transition from college to corporates. Okay, so first of all, I'm glad that you're doing this, because I keep telling people, especially people who get certified by us, any training is good training. So in the beginning, the more often you stand up and train and deliver a program to a group, the better it is for you. Okay, so that's one thing. And never underestimate the importance of training graduate students and so on, because there are a lot of companies which have done excellent corporate work, but who flopped miserably when it came to college training, because they are a different breed. Okay. Students are not necessarily bound by the norms of an organization and salaries, so they care less, so they could be therefore difficult to train and so on. So if you've already done this, it's great for you. How do you move into corporate? Well, one big thing that you need to shift is to look at what can you use which you have right now, which will move you to the next level. And this is a suggestion that I have for all of you. If there's something that you're doing right now, I mean, the place to start is from where you are, right? So start by doing this. You've already trained graduates, and I presume a lot of your graduates must have got placed and gotten jobs through interviews and so on. A good starting point for you would be to enter the first phase of training for graduates, which is called campus to corporate. Okay. And or programs along the lines of corporate etiquette, professionalism at work. This would be a good starting point. Once you get your foot into the corporate door, then I think you can look at what else you can add value to, which I'm sure you would be able to add value to a lot of things. Okay, so that's a good thing for you to do. Next question that I have here is, what interviewers look for in us when we apply for the role of learning and development? Okay, so I mean, there are quite a few things, and it really depends on the company. But let me tell you a few things. So first thing which I think interviewers would look for is how you come across as a trainer, especially the way you can talk, interact, and put your point across. This is critical, all right? And I see repeatedly the ability to speak well will straight away give you a lot of points. So I think if you were to work on something, that's one thing for you to work on. Second thing that interviewers look for is past experience. Now, if you have past experience, it's about showcasing that really well. The third thing that they would look for is effectiveness in terms of stand-up delivery. So, standing up and delivering a training session for a trainer or a training and development person is the equivalent of, flying the plane for a pilot or in the Air Force. So I would suggest working on that piece and strengthening that, having a very strong 1 hour piece, and if required, a 45-minute piece and a 30-minute piece will help you sail through the interview. Okay. The last thing, of course, a lot of interviews are knowledge based. So sometimes it's just about knowing what is out there. If somebody asks you, how do you evaluate the effectiveness of your training? Now, if you just say feedback forms, that's not a strong enough answer. But if you're able to say five more things along with it, that would add value to your response. And also, if you can explain in detail how you might execute any of those evaluation methods, that would really be the cherry on the cake. Okay, so that's what I suggest. The other thing which I would recommend before you go for an interview, I think it calls for a lot of research in terms of what that company is doing, what kind of trainings have they invested in, and so on. Because if you haven't done that, then, or shall we say, if you've done that, it will make your presence in the interview room much stronger. I can see some people saying that you can't hear me. Please check your audio system, because I hope your mic is on, because I see the others here can are able to hear me. Okay, so what do I have here? Kushi has said, it has been observed that when we approach for a new project, the client asks for reference presentation on a particular topic, and many a times after sending, the client never comes back. Not that don't like the PPT, but something else. How to believe the clients or individuals? so, so Kushi, it's unfortunate that you face this, but a lot of people do face this. Okay, here's what I suggest. Maybe this would be encouraging for you. At Bodhi, the ratio is something like this. We have so many conversations with clients, okay? And I think by now we have quite a lot of credentials as well in terms of being a training company, having worked with so many clients, having made a difference in the lives of organizations and people and so on. In spite of that, we have to send at least 20 session plans. Okay, that means designs, which means to say, to make the session plan, we would have had a pre training conversation, okay, a pre design conversation, a TNA conversation, and then we design an outline. We have to probably send out 20 of them before one training program gets fixed. Okay, so this means that there's a lot of groundwork that needs to happen before programs start moving, and this ratio has been reducing constantly. All right, but I think that's something that you have to be ready for. And by the way, I share your disappointment, because we have had some clients. In fact, there's one client which I don't want to name. They're a rapidly growing company and have a lot of funding and so on, but this is what they did. They got they had a requirement of about 10 training programs, and finally they contacted 10 different or 12 different training companies. They told each of them, you do the first program well and at almost no cost, and we will give you the other 9 programs, which of course had larger batches, higher commercial value, and so on. Finally, they got each of these 10 training companies to do one program free for them, or almost free, and then their training requirement was over. So that's that those things tend to happen. The point that I want to make to you is don't let that affect the rest of your work. Okay, I think you should just move on. And one thing which you could do is sometimes you should identify what's called as a smoke screen. Sometimes clients are just telling you something. Like recently, last week, I spoke to a client. We sent him a design outline, and he said, "Oh no, this is not good enough. I want something more specific," and so on. And this also, he didn't say it. His subordinate told this to us. Now we called him and asked him, what do you want specifically? When you say you want something more specific, what do you expect to see differently? Then he said, I don't know. You should ask my training. You should ask my manager. So we had a call with the manager, and I asked him, what is it that you did not like about this plan? You told me all these things, and all these are in the plan. So if you did a good TNA, a training need analysis, and you identified a set of 10 items, and those 10 items are addressed in your outline, then what is the problem? Then he said, oh, when somebody else reads it, it should also look like our own case studies are there. I said, okay, so let's do that. Let me see how I can include your case studies. But if it's your case studies, then you need to give me the cases. And then we're actually working on that right now. But I hope that gives you an idea. Ask them what specifically did they not like about the PPT. What is it that they expect to see differently, which will help them see the program as more relevant? Chetan, can you make me the presenter? No, Chetan, I cannot make you the presenter. I'd like you to put your thoughts down here on the chat screen. Hi, Vinesh, please address my question too, which I posted. I hope I've addressed it, Amelia. Okay. Kindly repeat the names of certification for leadership. So, in leadership, there isn't one particular certification. It depends upon what kind of, I told you the main thing for you is to demonstrate qualities of a leader. And let me tell you, it doesn't matter which certification you have. If you can't demonstrate leadership qualities, then it's going to be difficult for you to sell yourself. Okay? You would rather spend time demonstrating leadership competence in the work that you're doing or in the company that you're running or something like that, which will help you. But otherwise, uh, I think the Wharton Business School has a program which they run in India. It happens in Delhi. That's probably the best of the programs that you can do. INSEAD, the INSEAD Business School has a program which is related to leadership. You can also check them out. Okay. Uh, Deepak, in reference to working with children, thanks. All right, fine. Kushi, it has been observed that okay, I think we've done this. Gauri Shankar, thanks Vinesh. It's okay to share my profile with co-trainers to gain experience. Is it viable option? In that case, can I mention that I'm a beginner, emphasizing more on the knowledge? Okay, so here's what I have to say to you, Gauri Shankar. That one thing for you to keep in mind: don't think that because you're a fresher, you are also fresher doesn't necessarily equate to incompetent or less competent. And I've noticed this a lot of times because I have worked in some companies which did not have such a traditional mindset. And I've seen people who just came out of college and were able to become trainers in the first year of work. Of course, in some simple areas. Okay, they were really good at communication. They just got out of college and became communication trainers because why do you need experience? You spent your whole life practicing it and communicating well. That's the ultimate test. So my suggestion, Gauri Shankar, is to pick up some areas where you're really good, and also just to share my own experience. When I started working in my final year of engineering, and one of the things that happened was I was trained on some 3D modeling softwares, particularly this software called Solid Edge. And I realized that because I knew the software so well, I was training people just after my graduation. When I say just, I mean the week after. I was training people who had experience more than my age. And when I was training these people, I realized that because of my hold on the subject, I was able to convey something to them and they were willing to listen to me because I knew something which they didn't know. I knew something better than they would possibly know. And I could go and tell a group which was using 2D modeling which is like, softwares like AutoCAD, I would tell them, if you're going to take 3 days to make this drawing, I can show you how to do it in 3 hours. And when I showed them how to do it, my age and experience didn't matter. So my suggestion to you is, pick something that you're really good at, Gauri Shankar. That will make you a trainer faster, quicker, and you'll have no problem convincing somebody that you're good at it, because you are good at it. You're just trying to later just tell them the truth. Okay, Nidhi Anthony says, if no experience in L&D, then how to convince interviewers? So that's also a solution for you, Nidhi. Pick something which you're really good at. If you're not good at anything, that's something which you should really think about. If you're not really good at something, what is it that you have to offer as a trainer? Do you have something to offer? That's something for you to think about. And I think I'm a strong supporter of the fact that if you're going to train somebody, you better be good at something to train them on. If not, then what are you doing? So I think, along with attending our workshop and how to train, it's important for you to pick a strong what to train area. Hi Vinesh, Padmashri says, please address my questions too, which I post during registration for webinar. Don't worry, if you posted your question during registration, it's going to be here. Please address my question, Tasneem, Supriya, hi Vinesh. Hi Vinesh, please address my question. Do you have a mentoring session one-on-one and not in a group? Well, we launched a mentoring session recently, but we just found that our mentoring session was pretty intense, and eventually we had to do more follow-ups with the participants who registered for the mentoring session than the mentoring session itself. But I would like you to, I'm glad you're sharing what you have to share, about this. Okay, next, those of you who put your question at the time of registration, don't worry, I'm going to answer them. Next, how can I build client base? Okay, let me quickly tell you a couple of ways in which you can do this. One great way in which you can build a client base is by reaching every single person. Like last night, I'd gone to a restaurant in Bangalore. I didn't even go to the restaurant. I walked in and I walked out, and they took my email ID and contact number, and they asked me what I didn't like. So every place you do a training program, I think you should collect the contact details of everybody. That's a good way to go. Some people might refuse to give it to you, but at least half the people will give it to you. Second, if you want to build a client base, start doing something like blogging, start building a following. What is a client base? Earlier, client base used to be like a database of numbers, but where now today in this generation, where's this database coming from? It's coming from Facebook, it's coming from LinkedIn, it's coming from your Twitter followers, it's coming from your blog followers. Okay, it's coming from your real world followers, people who like your training program and talk about it to others. So my suggestion is, I have to confess, though I'm personally a bad example of this as far as my personal branding and following is concerned, but Bodhi is probably a good example of it, because we are quite active on the social media. So I would suggest, be very active and tell your story repeatedly on all these platforms. This is one thing which I've noticed about people in any field who are good at it. They're giving a consistent story. Okay, so there's a guy who's only talking about, uh, say, cybersecurity. He's talking about cybersecurity on Twitter, on LinkedIn. He's writing articles about it. He's writing a blog about it. He's doing training programs in it. So all this is one story. And is he himself good in cybersecurity? You bet he is. So this is what I suggest that you should do. And each time you get in touch with somebody, stay in touch with them, get their contact. Start with zero. It's okay. You can even just start with zero, and build a client base. Okay, if you want to invest some in it, I think one of the things that you could do is, you can do online marketing, which is a good way for you to build business. Okay, what do customers look for when shortlisting a trainer? Well, I've already answered this, but very quickly to tell you some more things. One thing that they look for is First of all, a lot of people could take a call even before looking at how you come across as a trainer. This is possible and it's happened. So the way you are able to talk about the field, let me just give you an example. Last week I spoke to a trainer. Now, when I spoke to her, this is what she told me. Okay, so I said, what kind of workshops do you do? She said, I've trained a lot of students. I mean, quite a few students, at least 100 students I must have trained. And I've also done a corporate workshop. I did one corporate workshop 2 months ago. Now, what this tells me is, first of all, she's hardly done any training. She's only trained 100 people in her life, and that too students. And she's done one corporate workshop, which she still remembers. A trainer who's done a lot of work would say something to the effect of, if you ask him how many people have you trained, he would say, how many people? I don't know. I mean, I don't know, a few thousands, maybe over 10,000. I don't know. Have you done any corporate programs? And he would say, yeah. I mean, I've only done corporate programs. So I must have worked with 100 plus clients. I don't remember. This tells me that this guy has really been in the training field. Okay. By the way, this is just an example. What I want you to gather from this, the way you come across as a trainer and you're able to talk about training makes a lot of difference. Yes. One more thing that people would look for, how well you can deliver a training. I mean, I have met more trainers who can talk rather than trainers who can do. So somebody says, "Oh, I'm very good at this, I'm great in communication, I'm great presentation skills trainer and so on." When you tell them, please come on Friday, I will give you a group of 7 people. After your training, in comparison with before, I would like to see a concrete difference in some skill or ability. And that's something that very few trainers can do. So my suggestion, if you just have this one quality, the ability to build competence, the question to ask yourself is, what will my participants be able to do which they can't do before the program? That will make you a fantastic trainer. All right. Is there a forum where a trainer can do mock sessions and get impartial feedback? Okay, so there are a lot of forums. One forum which I strongly recommend where a trainer can do sessions and get impartial feedback. You can go to meetups.com, and I think in meetups you can post, join some meetups which are happening in your city. And also, before you go for the meetup, tell them that, I'd like to contribute to this meetup. I don't want to just be a listener, I want to do something. I'm a trainer, so I'd like to do some session. So this is a good way, this is a good forum for you. There are people, we've had trainers who regularly, I mean, we have some trainers who regularly do training sessions in their apartment. Like many apartments have a clubhouse. Every Saturday evening, like one lady told me, she's in Hyderabad. She said every Saturday evening now, people just come to the clubhouse whether I call them or not. They come and sit down and I start doing a session. Sometimes parents come, parents and children come. So you can start with something even as simple as that. You can definitely offer some programs free, because one of the questions that people have in their mind is, how good a trainer are you? So if you approach a corporate and say, listen, see, one of the doubts in the HR manager and the training manager's mind is, will you goof up the program if I give it to you? Will you do it well or not? But if I tell you, and we've done this for a lot of our clients who've been reluctant to work with us initially, but who worked with us and continue to be our clients after we've done this program or a demo session for them. And we've told them, look, we will do a 1 hour session for you. We're not going to charge you for it. Okay? And if you like what you see, then we can work together. And that 1 hour session, though you're not charging, should be so impactful that people talk about you. The participants who come, they talk about you, and that immediately makes you a trainer who they feel comfortable working with. Okay? And any of these sessions that you do, carry a feedback form, and that's a good way to get impartial feedback. Also ask people what they found good, bad, and ugly about your session. How do we kickstart a journey as a trainer in schools, colleges, and NGOs when they prefer experienced trainers, and how do we build a profile? So I want to do some reverse engineering here while answering this. I'm looking at a really successful trainer, and I want to look at, why is it difficult to work with even such successful trainers? One is, they could be more expensive. Second, They could be more difficult to work with just because they have a chip on their shoulder sometimes and so on. Third, they could be, I know a lot of experienced trainers who are a one size fits all sort of trainers. Yes, so Suhaib, thank you for that. Thanks for putting up the the links to meetups. So those of you who wanted the meetup can follow it from here. Okay, so they could be one size fits all in the sense that they could have one program. I mean, I spoke to one of our participants who came from the Indian School of Business, and they have some of the best speakers in the world coming there to do some sessions. And this guy tells me these best speakers, they charge 20 lakhs for a day. For a day means for 2 3 hours of training. And they do zero customization. They tell you that they will customize it, but in the end, they do nothing. So, what happens is these are the reasons why somebody, or these are the drawbacks of somebody who's an experienced, successful trainer. Why would somebody work with you who's a new trainer? You will be the opposite of this, and you should be the opposite of this. Charge them less initially. If required, even charge them nothing. Imagine you did programs for 5 colleges at free of cost. This becomes your clientele. You can go there and say, these 5 colleges have worked with me. I have done programs for over 100 of their students in each of these places, and they've seen a difference. And people are okay to work with you and now at a cost. Secondly, you are flexible. You know, some of the most senior and good trainers are also happen to be the most difficult trainers to work with, even for Bodhi. But we see some of the junior trainers, they are flexible in terms of sometimes client wants to change the date. So say okay to that. It's all right. Sometimes the client says, you say your batch size is 15, but we have 25 people. Just be accommodating of it. Okay. I'm not suggesting say, yes, sir, 3 bags full to everything. But be flexible enough. Thirdly, customize it so much that it shocks them. When you do the program, getting specific day to day examples, it often shocks the client. And they say, wow, I paid so less for this guy or this lady. He or she has been so flexible and also did such a customized program which I've never seen before. That really will launch yourself in a career in training. Okay. Next, I'm starting my career as a trainer from this month. How to build a trainer profile that focuses more on the skills part. Suhaib, if you're listening to this webinar, I'm sure you must be. Please get a sample word copy of a trainer profile from the implementation team and please put it on this group so that the others can use it. Okay. All right. So trainers from this month, how do I build my profile and focus more on skills part and not on experience and clientele part? Okay, great. So here's what I suggest. We will be putting up a trainer profile. You can take a look at that. And if you're it is important to also showcase the companies that you work with, the departments that you work with in different companies, and the industries you had exposure towards. We have clients calling us and saying, we want a trainer who has been in automotive industry, we want a trainer who's been in pharma industry. So there's no escaping that. If you don't have anything to mention, then you can talk about your expertise in the subject. You can talk about what skills you can build and talk about also what certifications you have, what qualifications you have. I mean, that's really the way to go about it. I'm a beginner with almost zero experience in training. How do I approach experienced trainers to work as a co-trainer to gain experience? Okay, so let me tell you some things which I did at the start of my career, which helped me. And I think I don't see any reason why it might not work for you. Okay, first important thing, there are different dimensions in training. So many trainers who I meet, they think they have to be sitting in the training room. And that's the whole thing. No. Even if you look at the ADDIE model, it has analyze, design, develop, then comes deliver or implement and evaluate. So speak to some trainers and say that you would like to shadow them, you would like to work with them for free, okay, just to learn. They would be happy to give you an opportunity to do the entire training cycle. So sometimes what happens is the trainer's doing a training, another client wants to meet. they realize that you can go have that meeting, document that information well, and then pass it on. And guess what happens once you do that? You learn to do that by yourself, and you can meet your own client and do that. Better still, if you can later learn and offer the trainer that I will already design a plan for this, you just check it and then you can send it to the client. I mean, this is what happens in outsourcing, right? This is what India does for the US and other countries. There are lawyers there who are going and representing the case, and the document and all the research is done in India. The lawyer there just polishes it and presents it. So if you can be like the BPO for other trainers, that's something which certainly helps, and it also takes a lot of load off the other trainer. After a point, that trainer becomes it becomes difficult for the trainer to survive without you. That's the time you charge for your services. Or you might continue to do it for one person because he's your mentor. But then you approach other trainers and say, this is how I can help you. Now you realize suddenly you're not helping them. Or rather, the trainer's not helping you. You are helping the trainer. And that puts you in a position of power. So I suggest you first offer whatever you have to offer for free. Once you gain experience, I think you can charge for it. And also, I must tell you, don't think that. I mean, I remember meeting this girl from the Tata Institute of Social Science with zero corporate or training experience. She just got into her career in training. And I think, I mean, I have to say this to most of you or all of you. I think there are many people out there who just lack confidence. And I've met one guy who he came and told me all his problems of how his training career is not picking up. I said, okay. I said, why don't you do this, do this, do this, do this, do this? Okay. And even gave him three numbers that he should call. I called him after 10 days. He had done some of it, not done the others. So, at the end of it, there are some people who are running away from the actual crux of the story. When the time comes where the work is right in front of them, they back out. So I would say run forward rather than run away. Have confidence in yourself to pick up assignments which seem impossible. And I think you should just try and do them. Okay, because I've met some trainers who also said, no, that assignment was too big for me, I didn't take it up. I said, what do you have to lose? You right now you don't have the assignment. You take it up and you do it badly and they throw you out. You still don't have the assignment, so you have nothing to lose. In fact, on the contrary, you would have learned something because you took up something which is so huge. So that's really what I suggest to you. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, thanks Suhaib for putting all those things up. Okay, so Suhaib just tells me that there's no option to upload a Word file here, but to everybody in this group, I will make sure a sample trainer profile is sent so that you can use that as an example. Okay, how do I start my own training organization? What are the legal procedures to fulfill to open a training org? Okay, so there's a phenomenon in India. Everyone wants to start a company. I think I can confidently say 50% of the people working in other companies in India want to start a company of their own. Okay, I think it's the startup bug. Here's what I suggest first of all, ask yourself, do you really want to start a company? Okay, and if you do, why do you want to start it? If it is just the prestige of feeling like you're running a company, let me tell you, it's too much of effort and pain to just feel that prestige. You're better off doing something that you love. Secondly, if you're starting your own organization, be very clear to start something that you are really good at and which you really love doing. Okay. Thirdly, don't think if you start a company, you will only keep doing what you love doing. You'll be doing a lot of other things like working in some government offices, talking to your chartered accountant, um, taking salary cuts sometimes, uh, having to do a lot of paperwork and spend days doing that. So be aware, the Times of India and other magazines, they keep talking about the bright side of startups and starting your own organization. The number of startups which close every day, nobody talks about them. So while I'm not discouraging you to start from starting anything, do it for the right reasons. And what are the legal procedures? Well, there's every legal procedure related to it, depending upon whether you're starting alone or with a partnership. This is the whole process of company registration. Okay, then there's this whole process of tax. Now there's GST, there's TDS. I mean, there are so many things related to it. So there's all of that involved. So how can I start a training company? Well, the dynamics of this are not any different from starting anything else. But the important thing is start it for the right reasons. I mean, I meet some people who say they want to have a startup, and I ask them, what do you want to do a startup on? What's your idea? They have no idea. They just want to have a startup. So once again, think about why training company. Do you really want to start one? In fact, you might be far more hassle-free by working as an independent consultant. Okay, so think about it. And if you really want to start, then it's like starting any other organization. Okay, what do we have here? What is the best way to get opportunities to start a training career? Okay, so I've been answering this, but let me throw some more light on it. One thing which I strongly recommend to all of you, I recently met this person who said he's worked for 25 years. Now he wants to take up something light and easy, like becoming a freelancer. And I said, if you think being a freelancer is light and easy, then you're barking up the wrong tree. Okay? It's a wonderful place to be in, but I'm not suggesting that it's an easy place to be in. And I think those of you who are freelancers and who are trying to find your own work here would stand by me. Here's what I suggest. And I've suggested this to people, and the ones who've done it have done it really well and have found a lot of success through doing it. My first suggestion to you is treat it like a job. I remember this one guy who attended my workshop about 3 years back. I told him he quit his job. He quit his job. His wife was working and his wife wanted to quit. And I said, hold on. You just quit your job. Let's get your ball rolling. After that, your wife can quit. Otherwise, you're going to be in a position where every month you have bills to pay, but the money is not really coming in. So I told him, treat it like a job. He quit his job on Friday. The next week, Monday to Thursday, he attended our workshop. Okay. So I told him, just celebrate Friday and Saturday, rest on Sunday. I said, Monday, wake up in the morning at 8 o'clock, take a shower, get dressed, shave, sit at your desk, treat it like a job. Pick up the phone and start calling all the people you know. Start getting numbers from the internet, calling people. So, Kamna, you asked a question about who do I speak to? Do I call up and say, let's speak to the L&D manager? Can I speak to the HR manager? Yes, that's what you should do. And there will be receptionists who tell you, why do you want to speak to this person? Who are you? Why are you calling? Learning to make good cold calls is the starting point of being a successful consultant. And that's something that I encourage you to practice. So wake up in the morning, the girls in our office who are part of the pre-sales team, they make about 50 calls every day. And we have a few of them. Okay. And they have targets like, I think 3 appointments a day. Okay. These are just appointments. That means the person agrees to meet you. So my suggestion to you is wake up in the morning, pick up the phone, start calling your contacts, calling new people, search for companies on the internet, build your database. Okay, this is another way to build a client list. Build your database. Keep calling these people. Somebody will say, in fact, you should have an Excel sheet with serial number, name of the company, which city they are in, contact number, contact person, email ID, and comments, what the person said. You should be working with this Excel sheet from the morning. If you do this dedicatedly for a month, you will realize that you've gone for many meetings. Many people agreed to meet you. Many people have told you, come on Friday, let's meet. That's the time for you to go well prepared, understand the company, have a strong PPT with you. Have a very strong PPT. Go and show this PPT to them and tell them about what difference you can make. Be ready also with your demo. On the spot, if they say, When can you come and do a demo? Tell them I can do it now. This level of confidence and conviction in your training ability will help you get in. Do a demo. Tell them, please get a group right now. I'll wait here. Get a group. I'll do a demo for you. You know, and do a demo right there. Show them that the difference that you can make in terms of skill and ability before and after the session. Okay. If you keep making these calls, you will realize that you don't have time to make calls 5 days a week, morning till 9 to 6. Some days you just have to go for meetings. Then when you keep going for these meetings, you will realize that some programs are getting fixed. If the program doesn't get fixed, don't freak out. Find out what did you do wrong? What should you do differently? Call the person and say, hey, it's okay that we didn't work together, but I just want some feedback. How did you find the meeting? What would have got you to select me as a vendor? Write down what they say and factor that into your next presentation. Okay. Uh, Shelly Saini. Okay, repeat the points in the Excel sheet. Well, Shelly Saini, I presume that you're still working where you were working when I met you last. But in case you're on your own now, this Excel sheet is really for freelancers. It should have the first column is serial number, the second column is the name of the company that you're calling, the third column is the contact number of that company, maybe the board line. Okay, the fourth column is the contact person. The fifth column is their email ID. Okay, sometimes you might get their direct contact number. And the last column is comments. What did they say? They might say call on Friday. They might say call on Thursday, call on Saturday. Okay, what is it that they said? That's the last column. Okay, next. Okay, Shelly, yes, I am. That's nice to know. Good for Practo. Tasni Malik, Vinesh, my question, please don't worry, your question's coming. If you put your question up, I'm gonna get it. We are just in question number 15. You can add a column, follow up date too. Thanks, Gauri Shankar. Thanks for adding value to what I said. I greatly appreciate that. Okay, the next question. TTT prepared as well for content development. However, is it apt for senior management? And how to prepare training budgets? A requirement for a training and development manager's job. Okay, let me quickly tell you something about this. One is as as the TTTs prepared you for content development. See, senior management really depends upon two things. One is your ability to deal with the senior audience. What I've noticed in with senior management is they like to work with and get trained by somebody who's smart. So in your training program, perhaps even before, there should be a way for you to showcase your smartness and expertise. Sometimes it can be just the way you talk, or sometimes it can be the way you can promise them results. If you tell them, look, you're having attrition, let me bring down your attrition, and then, uh, you know, then you'll see the power of my techniques. So it could be something like that. But more importantly, it's also your area of expertise. What does senior management want? Maybe they want strategic thinking, maybe they want decision making. How come you are the expert in decision making? And I would strongly recommend to all of you to build an area of specialization. Just building an area of specialization will make you a sought after trainer. And here's what I suggest to some of you, or maybe all of you: the more niche your area of specialization, the easier it is to become a specialist. So don't just say I'm a soft skills trainer. Soft skills is too vast. Okay, don't just say I'm a technical trainer. You will say, I'm, like, I met a guy who was a real specialist. I'm an aerospace trainer, okay, for private or chartered airline companies. So I'm an aerospace trainer for chartered airline companies. Second, I'm a fitness trainer, okay, only for athletes recovering after spinal injury. I have a friend. He does something called craniosacral therapy. Okay. If you search for craniosacral therapy in Bangalore, you will definitely not miss him, because craniosacral therapy itself is a niche area. Okay. So instead of calling yourself soft skills trainer, come up with a really specialized area for yourself. So specialized that already you might just be the 10 people in the world who are offering it. Okay. And that's something that will make it easier for people to find you if you have a website or if you're a blog. So if you say travel blog, that's too general. If you want to be a specialist, you can say, I'm a food blogger, okay, only for Vietnam and in Hindi. Now, this will make it, if somebody is traveling to Vietnam, want to know what kind of food, and they can only read Hindi, you're the person to contact. And in a country like India, you'll already have thousands of people contacting you. Okay, I hope that throws clarity on that. About the budget. There's a lot of hue and cry about this, but here are a couple of things to consider. First thing to consider is how many people do you want to train? And who would decide this? Well, you're the one to decide this. Okay? You might decide to train the entire organization, only senior management, only freshers. That's up to the training manager to decide. Second, what kind of programs do you want to do for this group? Maybe the senior management, you want to only send them for seminars run by the world's leading leadership gurus. So you have only 10 of them. Maybe the middle management, you're going to put them through, all of them through an emotional intelligence program. Maybe the entry level people all go through a campus to corporate. And the other supporting staff, they all go through some program to feel good, maybe motivation training and team building. Then you have to calculate what are the best rates available for these programs in the market. Okay. So just to give you an example, if the senior management program costs 20,000 per person and you have 10 people, okay, that's 20,000 multiplied by 10, and that's easily something like, how much is that? 20 lakh rupees. Okay. So like this, you will calculate for each level, and that becomes your training budget. Okay. Now that's just the training delivery budget. Who's going to book the training venue? Who's going to take care of travel? Are all your senior managers in the same city? So it's all these variables. Thinking about you delivering the program tomorrow, look at everything that you might need. And many times clients take proposals from us, not when they need the program, 6 months earlier when they're creating the budget. And of course, we have to stick to the rates we promised. Okay, next. Want to know more about post-training assessment? Well, the most popular mode of post-training assessment is the feedback form. And it's not the only mode of post-training assessment. Nidhi Anthony says, thanks for answering my question. Anytime, Nidhi, that's the purpose of this webinar. Okay. Next. So that's the most popular mode of post-training assessment. There are other modes of training assessment. One of the modes is if you can follow this model called the Donald Kirkpatrickson model. Okay. So yes, you can follow this Donald Kirkpatrick model. It's a very powerful model. It's a 4-level model of post-training evaluation. You can search for it on the internet. You'll find it. I'd rather not explain that model in detail because there are more models to follow. The other thing which you can follow is there's something called as accreditation. So if you have a training and one of the tests of how good that training is, you can get yourself accredited by an external agency or a body. Okay, so that's one more thing which you can look at doing. Giving a test or an assessment is another thing which you can look at doing. There's also something called as an consumer-oriented approach. If you're doing a campus to corporate, okay, and get somebody who's knows about all the campus to corporate programs in the market, get them to sit through your program and ask them to rate it. This is another mode of assessment. Okay, so these are just some modes. There are a lot more, but I think the Donald Kirkpatrickson method is really good. I'd like to know about scalability of training business. What should be the differentiator in a crowded marketplace? How can technology be used to scale? So this is let me tell you some things about this. One important point that I'd like to make is, this I think the whole world is getting caught up in this whole scalability phenomenon. And I think the reason many companies which start tend to shut down is because they're worried about scalability rather than quality. So this is what, when somebody went to Picasso and asked him, to Pablo Picasso, the artist, and asked him he wanted to draw all these things. Picasso said, just draw me a sparrow, will you? Can you draw me a sparrow well? So first, the starting point of a training business is to offer something well of quality where you can make a difference in somebody's life or an organization's, productivity or outcome. If you can't do this, then don't even think about scalability. How do you differentiate yourself in a crowded market? That's how you differentiate yourself in a crowded market. You differentiate yourself by doing something and producing results that other people cannot. Okay, like the health and fitness industry is a really crowded market, but I can still tell you, even today, if you have a formula where you can help somebody drop 10 kgs irreversibly, not that they drop 10 kgs and after that they'll put on that 10 kgs in the next month. If you can help them stand on the weighing scale the day they meet you, and 2 months later stand on the weighing scale again, and they've dropped 10 kgs, that's the ultimate test. Even in a crowded market like the fitness, health, well-being, weight loss market, you will stand out. Okay, how can technology help you scale? Well, let me just tell you this: technology cannot replace you. Okay, it can do exactly what you're mentioning. It can help you scale. Like, I'm doing some research with a university in the US, and a lot of the professors that I work with, they work very closely with me and with the inputs that I give. Correct what I say. Say it differently. The human intervention is so huge. How does technology help? It's a platform. I can post something on the discussion board, other people can read it. I can ask a question, other people can answer it. If I finished, if I give you some things to finish after my training, and I want to make sure you finish it in 7 days, I can put a deadline so that beyond 7 days you can't even upload your answers. So this is really how technology can help you scale. And of course, in the back end, all this information can automatically come out on an Excel sheet or a PDF document for you, and you don't have to do the documentation. My question is around content development, using content available on the internet, individual activities, sources for developing new activities. Okay, so here's what I have to say. There are a lot of sources available on the internet. The popular ones are SiteHR. Uh, there's one called MindTools, so sitehr.com, or I think .arg. You can find that out. So hey, you can just post that. A link to SiteHR, a link to MindTools. Okay, there's a website called about.com. It has a lot of interesting information. There are also a lot of people who have free resources. You can look at any author you like, go to their website. They will, many of them, 90% of them have a section called free resources. Even if they don't, you can use the resources they have on their website and use it in your program as long as you acknowledge them. Okay. Activities, you can check out this website called Tyagi Group, THIAGI or TIAGI Group. They have a lot of activities available, and many of them which you can purchase, many of them which are free. There are a lot of activities available in the IAF website. Go to iafworld.com or .org, I think. You can find that. Suhaib, so can you just put these: SiteHR, Mind Tools, IAF World, Tyagi Group, and the other authors who you like. Next, how do we stay updated with current market training needs? Well, the best way that I've found to stay updated is to look at what requirements are coming out in the market, to do training programs, to meet people. Here's what I suggest. One consistent quality which I see in the successful trainers: they are always meeting people. They're meeting people, they're meeting people, they're meeting people. Either in a, either in a webinar like this, virtually, or they're attending a training program, or they're going for a conference, or they're going for some HR meet or a meetup. Just keep meeting people. You will get to know what is a trend. A trend is something that's happening right now. And you'll get to know what's trending by meeting people, understanding what they're talking about. This is the best way to understand what the market needs are. Okay. The other way, when you reach out to people in companies, ask them what they're looking for. And if 9 out of 10 companies tell you they're looking for online training, then you know where the market is headed. How do trainers build market recognition? Well, this is what most of the market is after. They're trying to build market recognition. How do you build it? Let me share some things which have really worked for me and worked for some of our most successful trainers. First thing, consistent use of language. You know, I, I have met some trainers who are very mediocre, but from the past 5 years, they've been saying the same story. Same story means under the same umbrella. From the 5 years they've been saying network marketing training, types of network marketing training, different levels of network marketing training. Now, when you think of network marketing training, you think of them because they've been sticking to their story. This is one thing which I suggest you do. Second thing which I suggest that you do to become you know to market, to get recognition in the market, be very active in all the social media platforms. And like I said, I'm not a great example of this, but Bodhi is a great example of this. Okay, that's the second thing which I'd like you to I'd suggest to you. The third thing which I would suggest to you is write about your field. If you're not a good writer, get somebody else to write your ideas out well and put it up in a blog, put it up. I mean, you'll see a lot of the things that I've written are on you can go to vineshsukumaran.com, or even my blog is called psychologyofhumanbehavior.com, because that's really my area of expertise. My area is understanding human behavior and using it for personal and corporate effectiveness. That's what I write about, talk about, coach people for, train, think about. And that's also what I that's also what I do on holidays or when I go out in the weekend. I love sitting at a restaurant and actually watching what other people are doing. So I think you should give your consistent story out through as many different media as possible. The other thing which will help you get market recognition, I would strongly recommend come up with something original and unique. You will never get market recognition by just recycling the same things. Write something original, write something new, come up with your own concept. As long as you pick up something which, say, Jack Canfield did, and you reproduce it in your own program, it will always be a version of the chicken soup for the soul. It will never be your own. Okay, so that's something which I suggest. Okay, how are sessions priced? Cost for a program. Okay, well, we've talked enough about this, but here are the things for you to keep in mind. Look at your competition. How much are they charging for the programs? Step one. Step two, what is what are similar programs and world leaders, global leaders charging? Like recently, one of our clients, let me not name them, they wanted a Stanford program. And in Stanford, that program is about 14 lakhs per person. They wanted us to do it at about 10 lakhs for 15 people. So that's the time for us to say, Stanford is charging you 14 lakhs per person. Yes, Bodhi is not Stanford. Okay, but we'll at least charge you 40 lakhs for 15 people. Okay, so look at similar areas. What are the best companies and universities in the world charging? Thirdly, look at how many interventions the client needs. Is it just a meeting? Is it a training? Is it a training and coaching? Is it training, coaching, and content they want to purchase from you? Each of these has a cost. I'll meet you twice, but beyond that, if you want me to meet everybody in your organization, I'm going to charge you for consulting time. If you want to purchase the content from me, per day content has a cost. Okay, and all these things have to be priced sensibly. And secondly, there's no need for you to undercharge. I would say produce good quality work and charge accordingly for it. Okay, because I've noticed the trainers who say I charge really less, they also do lousy programs. Okay, share some trainers profiles to get an idea of how to build one. I think I'm already going to do that. I have not been able to get any client. What must be my approach? So I've told you, start making cold calls. Don't think you're going to sit back and the trainer will come. I mean, the client will come and fall on your lap. No, make cold calls every single day. Meet people as often as possible. The days you're not making cold calls, you're going for a seminar. You're going to meet people. You're going for a seminar even on fields not related to training. I have a friend, I keep sharing this example off late. I have a friend who went for the Jaipur Literature Festival. He met a group of artists there, writers, and he realized that these artists and writers, they're very good in creativity, but they're not good in business acumen and marketing themselves. So he's running a program to help creative people build business acumen. Okay, so there's a huge opportunity out there. I think I urge you to tap into that. Next, another thing which you can do to get clients, have demo sessions. Okay, contact, there are so many business schools in each city. Contact all those business schools and go and speak there. It's very easy to become a guest faculty in a business school. They're always looking for people. Okay, next, what are the best practices for trainers to be good and sought after trainers? Well, the first best practice I would say is for you to be committed to the work that you're doing. Stick to your promises. If you say you're going to send a document at 5 o'clock, send it before 5 o'clock. Okay, at least not later than 5 o'clock. Second, another best practice for trainers, you should keep reading about your area of expertise every day. You should spend at least an hour reading about your area of specialization. That's really how you become a specialist. Third best practice for trainers and to become sought after, produce, when you get a chance to do a program, realize that it's a chance, it's an opportunity. Deliver something so good that it becomes difficult for the client to not call you back. So this is one of the best practices for you to become a sought after trainer. Let me give you two more. Another best practice for trainers, don't be so stuck up as a trainer that it becomes difficult for the client to work with you. Be flexible with small changes. The client says, change this, include this topic. Can you just send us the material 2 days ahead so that we can print it? Be a little accommodating. And the last and most important thing, you have to be likable. If I don't like you, no matter how good a trainer you are, I can't work with you. Likability is important. Don't become a person, by the time I talk to you for 5 minutes, I get into three arguments. Then it doesn't matter if you have all the other skills, it's going to be difficult for me to work with you. So focus on your own likability. Okay, what do we have here? In what way I can get an opportunity after doing your train the trainer course in your group itself? Okay, so let me be honest and open about this. If you're looking for a job, this is not the program for you. You'd rather go to a placement organization and ask them to place you in a training company. Okay, like I said, Bodhi has more trainers than we can give opportunities to. Secondly, if you attend the train the trainer course, definitely it will equip you with the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for you to be a successful trainer. All right, and once you have those qualities, and many of which I'm mentioning now, you will be able to go out there and talk to training companies. They'll ask you for a demo. You'll be able to do a good quality demo. For example, on the fourth day of the train the trainer certification, the assessment that we have is nothing but a demo. We will be video recording this and giving it to you. Not only can you put it on YouTube or somewhere, but it also teaches you on how to do a good session, a good demo session. Okay, so a lot of our ex-participants have landed up great training jobs, and I think for the ones who haven't, we are constantly trying to provide support. Okay, next, how to kickstart our mainstream profession as a trainer, how to approach the customers with appealing profile, how to effectively market yourself, shadowing a trainer, okay, beginner's rate card. So I think I've answered all these questions in different ways or the other so far, but let me see if there's something I want to throw more light on. Okay, so here are some things which I suggest in addition to what I've already mentioned. The first thing is start calling yourself and introducing yourself as a trainer to others. If you go for a party, people ask you what you do. Don't say, I used to work as a software engineer in XYZ. Tell them I am a trainer. I help people improve their sales and profits in companies by doing sales training. Tell them exactly what you do and introduce yourself as a trainer. The starting point of you launching yourself in a profession is to say that you are that new person. Start saying that. Uh, I told you about profile, I'll be sending it to you. How else do you approach yourself and market yourself? Other things that you can do, and I recommend that you do, is create your own meetup group. There's a great opportunity of doing this because if you want to train, you need an audience. Who's your audience? Who do you really train? So it's important that you launch your own group, and maybe in the first meetup only 3 people will come. It's okay. Second meetup you might have more people. Well, I told you about the International Association of Facilitators. It was just a group of people initially, many years ago, and they started, I think, in Minnesota, and now they're a worldwide organization and one of the leaders when it comes to facilitation. So that's really what I suggest you do. And the beginner's rate card, I already mentioned to you. My only suggestion is don't be sitting on a high horse saying I will only charge 1 lakh per day. That's the easiest way to get stuck. Start by even doing a program free if required. And once you start doing good programs, it's a great way for you to get feedback for your programs. Once you start doing good programs, start charging 3,000 a day, 5,000 a day. Treat yourself like a physician. Successful doctors and physicians in every city, when the waiting room becomes too full and the roads getting blocked because of patients who are coming, they move their rates from 5,000 to 500 to 700 per consultation. Then the number of vehicles will reduce a bit. Then they raise it to 1,000. Increase your rates gradually rather than charging something and getting stuck in your own web. How to prepare a presentation for showcasing management training program at the time of panel interview. My suggestion is never prepare a presentation unless you're just introducing yourself and your company. Even in a panel discussion or an interview, there's an opportunity for you to do a demo. In the absence of a demo, then you can have a presentation. And that presentation should have these things. It should have, first of all, your background and your credentials. It should have how are you different? What can you offer that the others cannot? And it's in that interest that I told you about the, how to pitch yourself as a specialist. Remember, I was giving you the example of SAP trainer for a particular industry for a niche market in Bangalore. Let it be that specific so that people see you as a specialist. The other thing which I also suggest is let your presentation not be monotonous, let it be interesting, and let it also be a presentation where there's a lot of engagement, asking questions, getting participants to write something, getting them to share their responses, asking them their point of view, having a quick discussion around the room. You can do this in a presentation. It doesn't have to be a one-way street. What do I have here? I have some questions. Thank you, Suhaib. You're doing a great job putting up all the links. Shadowing a trainer. Okay, I'll talk to you about that. In fact, I've already mentioned some things. I'll mention some more things. Hi, Vinesh. I recently tried Accenture for a communication trainer, but unfortunately got rejected. How should I get into an MNC? I'm trying hard to get into it. Get a good exposure. Please help. Okay, so let me take it one at a time. First of all, shadowing trainer, I told you what to do. Here's another thing which I suggest, which has worked for a lot of our trainers. Go on LinkedIn and pick up the profile of at least 20 people who you'd like to be mentored by or trainers who you'd like to shadow. Okay, write a note to them, a customized note, okay, saying why you'd want to be mentored by them, saying that you're not expecting any cost or them to pay you if you shadow them, all right? And then set this note out in terms of how where they are in life links to your own career aspirations. Why is it that you want to get mentored by them and not anybody else? This makes for a good pitch for mentorship or even for shadowing, and I think that's something that you can try out. And to answer the question of how do you get into an MNC, here's what I suggest. Let's accept it. Sometimes an MNC like Accenture has a huge training team, in case you're not aware. They have enough people who have experience in training who are in the waiting list who are unable to get in. Now, do you want to, I was telling somebody recently, it's more competitive and difficult to write the CAT in India and get into an IIM than it is to write the GMAT and get into a good university abroad. So which game do you want to play? Do you want to play the CAT game or do you want to play the GMAT game? So my suggestion to you is that you pick companies where you have a great opportunity but not so much competition. Okay, if required, work for some time. One of the benefits of the startup culture is startups, many of them can't afford training. I would say pitch yourself to some of these startups And for them, getting an in-house trainer could be a luxury. And they would be even surprised, believe me, that a trainer is willing to work with them full time. Okay, so I think reach out to some of the smaller companies. Doesn't mean you have to work there forever. Once you gain experience, you can jump to a bigger startup and a bigger startup and then get into an Accenture. It might be a little difficult for you to make that entry directly into an MNC. The other opportunity or option is for you to get into an MNC in a space where you already have experience. So if you're a salesperson, get into sales and training role in an MNC and then completely move into training over time. Okay, Nina says, thank you. What to include in the PPT when asked to send a sample trainee program? And that would decide the next level of interview. Would it still remain the same as you answered for management trainee program? Okay, so here's, I mean, one of the things that I'm gathering from what you're saying, Niti, is that the PPT you send is not a one size fits all. Okay, you got to ask them what are their training challenges. You got to ask them who are they planning to train. You got to understand their business. In fact, put their logo on some of the slides. Give examples from their industry. That's how you build a PPT and link that PPT to your area of expertise. So, it's not make a PPT and send it to all the clients. No. Each PPT has to be customized for a particular client for a particular requirement. Okay, so it's a customized PPT rather than a generalized PPT. And your area of expertise has to talk to their requirement, has to address their requirement. And if you have track record in that industry, nothing like it. I mean, that's something that which will certainly help you. Okay. Can we call ourselves training and development managers? Yes, you can call yourself training and development manager. Okay. But the question is to ask yourself, am I really a training and development manager? What do training and development managers do? Either they manage the training and development function, or they manage a group of trainers, okay, or they manage a pool of freelancers. So, or they manage the training requirements for an organization. Are you doing any of these? If you're not doing any of these, then why do you want to call yourself a training and development manager? So I would say, ask yourself this question first. Ask yourself, what is it that you're doing? If you're not doing anything, for example, let's say if what you're doing really is enabling managers be more effective in their roles. If that's what you're doing, you can call yourself an enabler. You can call yourself a mid-management consultant. Okay, you can call yourself a training and development consultant, professional. So I think it's more than calling yourself. What you call yourself should stand for who you are. I mean, that's the larger question. Just one more thought about this. I've met a lot of people who are calling themselves something which they don't really I mean, which they're too big for, but they're just calling themselves anyway. I'm not a great supporter of that. In fact, I feel humility is a good thing. I see the most successful. I've seen some really top-notch trainers. When they attend some of my workshops, they introduce themselves as students. They say, I'm a student of communication skills, suggesting that they still learn. Okay, what are some standard reports expected to be maintained for records and audits as a training and development manager? Well, some standard reports are definitely there's a feedback report, there's a training need identification form. Once you've understood the training needs, you capture this in a form. Then there's a training design document, which is the equivalent of what we have as the session plan. That's something which you could use for the audit. There are standard versions of how the participant manual should look, how a handout should look, how a PPT should look. Okay. Other records include attendance record, which is a record of how many people attended the program. The other record could also be things like if you have a group of trainers, which all programs did trainers do. Okay. There's a record of feedback with a particular client, feedback about a particular program, feedback in a trainer's lifespan. So all these are records that you could maintain as a training and development manager. If you're managing a group of people internally, a big record to maintain is who has attended which program, when, okay, and how much did they benefit from it, what did they use. So that's another record that you could maintain. Next question, I would like to get some inputs on techniques about felicitating a training session, and also storytelling. I suspect the person who wrote this question doesn't mean felicitating, but means facilitating. But in case you mean felicitating, it's about congratulating a person after a training session. You could try this out. Try taking photographs of people in the end of the training session when you're giving out something like a certificate or an award. Also, try interviewing them, asking them how the session was, and putting that up on YouTube. This will give you a lot of marketing mileage. When people see themselves being interviewed, they feel like experts, and then they send that video to everybody and their grandmothers, and that will give you a lot of mileage. But in case you're talking about facilitating, I think I already spoke about this earlier. You can refer to iafworld.com, which Suhaib has already put up the link. Storytelling methods. I would suggest you read this book called Story Selling. Okay, it's a book called Story Selling. It's kind of slipped my mind who actually wrote this book. I think it is written by this guy who is also a filmmaker. I think he's a director of a movie, not a very popular director, but he wrote this book along with, I think, Anthony Robbins. It's called Story Selling. You can just search for this book, Story Selling. That would give you a lot of idea. But essentially, some of the elements of a good story, one is there has to be suspense. Okay? It's like telling a joke by revealing the punchline right in the beginning. Second thing about a story is stories are all about what I know and what you don't know. The moment you tell a story like, I'm going to tell you a story about the tortoise and the hare, people have already gone to sleep. Okay, so that's not something I encourage. So let it be a new story, at least an old story with a new twist. Thirdly, there has to be something in the story which is visual, which makes people see word pictures in their mind. Okay, that's something that certainly helps. And the last point that I'd like to make about storytelling is, if the story is your own story, nothing can be more remarkable than that. The moment you start telling a story about Abraham Lincoln, or about John F. Kennedy or Mahatma Gandhi, immediately it becomes somebody else's story. So start by looking at your own life. I think you have enough stories to share. And if you notice many of the TED Talks, if those of you who watch TED Talks are loaded with personal stories, not with other people's stories. Okay. Not able to explore the opportunity to start as a trainer, not able to. So I think I've answered enough of this. I'm just thinking other things about this I still haven't told you. Okay, here's one more thing which I suggest that you do. Um, go to the magazine store, pick up about 20 magazines where you think you can write for. And nowadays, sometimes every company has a publication. I did this exercise for myself some years ago. I went to a bookshop in Bangalore called Variety, and I picked up about 20 magazines. And I realized Apollo Hospitals has a magazine, Dr. Batras has a magazine. There's so many other magazines, and I wrote to all of them saying which part of their magazine I could contribute towards. Okay, and 12 of them got back, and I think I suggest you do this. Pick up magazines and identify sections where you could contribute. Write to all the editors. Some of them will get back to you, and they might not pay you for your articles, but this is a good way for you to promote yourself as an expert in your field, and that would get you opportunities as a trainer. I'm sorry. How to approach corporates? I've already told you, cold calls is the way to go. You can also market yourself. Those of you who have money, Google AdWords is the way to go. You can market yourself in Google AdWords. It has been observed that whenever we approach for a new assignment with a new customer organization, they ask for sample presentation of PPT or topic to check for our availability to understand client requirements for any other reason. Many a times, a few organizations take away the content. So I think this is the question that was asked earlier on the chat screen. And in fear of me not answering it, they had asked this. So here's the thing, what I want to make, have so much of content that if some people run away with your content, it's not a sin. You're not threatened by it. One of the people who you should learn lessons from is Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall Goldsmith says he's a Buddhist, and you can take all his content from the internet and use it. He's mentioned this in many talks. If you search for Marshall Goldsmith's talk on Google Talks, he mentions it even there. He says you can use all my content, it's free, because I just want to give away. Use it and do whatever you want with it. Realize that the kind of person you are to create that content is what makes you special. And if it's copied content, what are you afraid of anyway? Okay. It's anyway wasn't yours to begin with. Next, how to create a training webinar? Well, you can use this service which we are using right now. It's called GoToMeeting. You can have a maximum of 50 people, 50 or 51 people, I guess, 50 plus the presenter. So you can go to gotomeeting.com. There are also other sites. Suhaib, could you please put up some of the other websites where they can use it for a webinar? So it's very user friendly. You can send a link to invite people. Then you can conduct your own webinar. You can record it, and then you can this. By the way, this is getting recorded. It's going to be put up on our website. How to promote trainer's profile? Okay, so I told you about the trainer profile, but I want to say a few things about not just the trainer profile, how to promote it. The best way to promote a trainer profile is you sending out the profile to somebody who requests for it. Don't just put your profile anywhere, because you sort of already show people your cards, and when you already show them your cards, it puts you in a weaker position. So my suggestion to you is, don't promote your profile till you have something concrete, till you have a piece of work that you're trying to show to somebody, till somebody says, I have a program, but first can I see your profile? Without that, don't just randomly send out your trainer profile. I don't think it's a great idea at all. Okay. The other thing which I want to say about a trainer profile is, look at some of the best profiles in the world. I would suggest go to some of the best universities in the world. Go to Harvard, go to Stanford, go to INSEAD. Look at how some of those people have put up their profiles. Go to some of the best organizations in the world and see how the consultants have written their profiles. I think you can learn a lot of lessons from there. Okay. Next, how to do networking as a trainer. I think I've already answered this, but since we have a few more minutes, let me just say some more things about this. To promote yourself as a trainer, you have to start meeting people, go for meetups, anchor your own meetup. Okay. There are also a lot of places which are constantly looking for speakers. I find this amazing. Every B school in the world, every business school, especially the ones which are not so big, they want a speaker to come and speak there every week. And I'm surprised we have people on the other side of the fence who are wondering where to find speakers. So I would suggest reach out to those places. In fact, we had a couple of people who were doing an internship at Bodhi who have got us speaking assignments in their colleges. So I'm saying that you don't have to know the dean of the college. You can even just know a student, and that's good enough. And even those of you who are working full time, I urge you to go out there and talk about your area of expertise to students. Okay, this is a great way to network. And I have seen some trainers who talk to a group of 300 students, and their Twitter following goes from, 200 to 350 overnight. Next, how to sharpen the training skills day by day. Well, if you want to sharpen your training skills, you can attend one of the Bodhi workshops. But the best way to sharpen your training skills is to be at it all the time. What I call NST, never stop training. Every day you should be doing some training or the other. If you can't find any people, tell your family members you become a trainer, and you will be giving them ideas to motivate themselves every Sunday afternoon. You're going to have an open house. Anybody can walk in, learn new things, and walk out. If you can't find people, start with something like that. Then slowly you will, build your network. Also, partner with training companies. It's a great way to actually get to do more trainings. Have a demo session ready and offer it to clients for free. And most importantly, be flexible and be likable when you go for these sessions. Let your session be talked about. Okay. Which is the best TTT program to attend in the world? Uh, so I can't talk about other training programs, but I can tell you a few things which are the best programs to attend in the world are the programs which gear you for a range of things, including a TTT. Like, for example, INSEAD has a program, the INSEAD Business School, they have a program called EMD CAM, the Executive Master's Degree in Clinical Approaches to Management. It's a it's a program where psychotherapy meets management, and it will really make you a successful consultant later and help you coach and so on. Of course, it's a super expensive program. It costs about 75 lakhs to do and for 18 months. So if you have the kind of investing power, that's the program which you should, that's the kind of program you should probably do. And also the selection procedures are really difficult. But otherwise, I mean, if you're going to want to be an English trainer, if you want to just train people on English, I would strongly recommend the British Council certification. And I tell people openly, when it comes to English, I think British Council is the expert. I mean, what could be better than learning English from the Brits? So, but when it comes to how to train, I must tell you that we are among the top 7 programs in the world, and there's an independent research body, which is a leading research body based out of London called Technavio, which has done research just the month before last. And they have identified the top 7 training companies, not just this year. They've identified the top 7 training companies from 2017 to 2021. And we are, I think, the only real Indian company on that list. So I think we are the best training program to attend at the moment, and perhaps till 2021. And Suhaib, you can just put a link to that Business Wire, because that research was published in Business Wire, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company, which, as you know, is run by or headed by one of the richest people in the world. So you can check out that BizWire article. It's a Warren Buffett company, and they have published this independent research where they've identified our program or our Train the Trainer as the top 7 programs in the world. Okay, last question for the day. How to sharpen my skills day by day? Okay, I think that's really one of the questions which I already answered. But let me give you a bonus question here, which many people have been asking us, which is, what is the benefit of attending the Master Trainer certification? Okay, so here's what it is. Here's how the Master Trainer is different from the Foundation course or the Train the Trainer. The Foundation course is about training fundamentals. It is not just a foundation program. It is not a level 1 program necessarily. It's about understanding the fundamentals. We have had freshers and even people with 20 years of training experience who sat in the foundation course and said, wow, here's something which I never knew before. And I was doing it wrong for most of my 20 years. We have people who said that and who are otherwise considered good trainers by organizations. So definitely you have a lot of value to take back. The Train the Trainer certification is about understanding the entire ADDIE model. All right. And the Master Trainer certification is about when you've been a trainer for some time and you're wondering how to go to the next level, that's when you attend the Master Trainer certification. So if you have 250 hours of training experience, or if you have a strong area of specialization, you want to just move that into training, or you've done many trainings for many years and you want to now move into being a master trainer, it's an extremely powerful program. We've always conducted for some very small groups, though we can take up to 15 people for that program. I have even run that workshop just for 2 people. I remember 2 years back, I ran that workshop for a gentleman from Nigeria and a lady who runs a consulting company in Bangalore. Just 2 people for 5 days. And the learning in it is immense. You will learn a lot of things about what is stopping you from being a trainer of the next level. But I must confess, do not take up the master trainer if you do not have any training experience and you've attended trained the trainer, but not done any programs. No, because I don't want you to waste money. For me, it's very easy to get somebody with no experience and put them through the training. They won't even know what's happening. But our interest is in providing value. So if you're a person who's done a lot of training, I would strongly recommend the master trainer certification for you, because it's going to change the way you think about training and have, a lot of the things which I mentioned. Do you have something original? What is your own contribution towards your field? Those are some things. And I see some master trainer participants here. I saw, who was that? Was it Sajla or Rajesh? Somebody was here. So anyway, so the those people who attended the master trainer would definitely back what I said, would second what I just said. It's a program where you can really learn a great deal, develop an area of specialization which is so strong that you're making your own contributions to that field. It will help you learn from the world's leading experts about training. It will also help you learn from multiple fields and bring those learnings into the field of training. So those of you who have training experience, I strongly recommend the Master Trainer program for you. It's a program that I can confidently say, will change your life, because it has done so in the past. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't happen again. All right, folks, I think I've kind of overshot time. Yes, the research which I spoke about is all there on the chat screen. One second. Chetan, is it okay to do the foundation program after TTT? So let me just take this last question. Chetan, it is absolutely okay to do the foundation program after TTT and MTC, because it's not like a CA foundation where you have to finish the foundation and then do your inter. This foundation means fundamentals. If you become a trainer, done the TTT, but you still feel that it's all about the fundamentals and that would benefit you, please attend the foundation course. You will see real value in it. So folks, thank you very much. I hope you found the session useful. Our website is on the screen. Okay, our details are here. You can come to bodhi.com. You can follow us on all the social media platforms. Suhaib will put up the links there. And you can also, I hope if you come back to any of our other programs, I will see you face to face. This recording will be put up online and Suhaib will be sending it to all of you. So even those of you who had to drop out will be able to catch up on what you missed. So thank you very much. I hope you found this useful. I enjoyed doing this webinar. I hope I've answered your questions, and we have made a note of the original question which I asked you. How else can Bodhi help you? And we're going to do something about it. All right. So stay in touch. Good luck. Have a great week ahead. Happy Monday.